Imagine being thrown straight into space without any protective equipment. Your skin would freeze in less than a minute. The blood in your veins would freeze solid before you even realized what was happening. Or right here, a place where the heat is an invisible furnace, draining the very last drop of water from your cells. How long do you think you would survive? An hour? 10 minutes? Or just a few hundred short seconds before your body completely collapses? To us humans, these places are hell on earth, the absolute boundary of death. But for the creatures that choose these realms as their sanctuary, this is simply home. Welcome to a journey beyond the ultimate limits of biology. In winter, the entire Antarctic continent turns into the world's most desolate ice desert. Temperatures plummet below -60 degrees Celsius, accompanied by raging gales reaching speeds of over 200 kilometers per hour. The cold here is not merely a type of weather, it is a silent death sentence. To reach their safe nesting grounds deep within the Antarctic continent, penguins must trek over 100 kilometers across a blank white desert. No compass, no visibility when storms obscure the sun. Yet, they never lose their way. Scientists becoming part of the endless snowy ocean. To reach their safe nesting grounds deep within the Antarctic continent, penguins must trek over 100 kilometers across a blank white desert. No compass, no visibility when storms obscure the sun. Yet, they never lose their way. Scientists discovered that these birds possess special molecules in their eyes and brains, highly sensitive to the Earth's magnetic field. This biological magnetic map guides them precisely around hidden crevasses. Furthermore, shifts in atmospheric pressure detected by their inner ear warn them of a blizzard forming hundreds of miles away. This natural radar system is their first crucial key to survival. Observe this moving structure closely. Scientists call this huddling, or the tortoiseshell formation behavior. This is no random gathering. It is an organized dance of survival at its most flawless level. Thousands of individuals voluntarily rotate from the wind-swept perimeter into the warm core, and vice versa. Yet, this perfection does not come easily. It is a silent, flesh and blood struggle. On the outer perimeter, even the thickest layer of blubber cannot ward off the bone-chilling cold. Those on the outside must use their last ounces of strength to tread forward, fighting against gales that threaten to tear them away from the colony. The sacrifice of the front line is the very shield protecting the life at the center. To feed their chicks, they are forced to brave the open ocean for food. But the edge of the ice is a killing zone. Beneath that freezing water, a hidden assassin lies in wait, the leopard seal. 10 feet long, weighing half a ton, and armed with razor-sharp teeth. It is the true demon of the Antarctic seas. The battle begins. The penguins dive into the water like arrows. The leopard seal strikes. It hunts not with brute force, but by ambush. Seconds of pure desperation begin. One penguin is locked in its sights. It twists and turns continuously to evade the jaws of death. A fraction of a second too slow, and it's all over. A spectacular leap. The penguin rockets out of the water, landing cleanly on the ice shelf. A narrow escape. Its heart races, but it has survived. Today, death has missed a meal. We often marvel at giant predators, but the lifeblood of the polar ocean is actually held by invisible organisms. As spring arrives, sunlight triggers ice algae to bloom beneath the shelves. Instantly, billions of Antarctic krill arrive to harvest this green pasture. Krill is the planet's most vital link. The total weight of these tiny creatures exceeds that of all human beings combined. They are the fuel that feeds penguins, seals, and colossal whales. Wherever krill gather, the ocean's busiest battlefield forms. While others are distracted by the krill feast, they remain oblivious to the fact that they have now become the prey. The most intelligent, ruthless, and tactically brilliant predators on Earth are arriving. Dark, towering fins cut through the water. The orca, the ocean's apex predator. They possess not only immense physical power, but an even more terrifying weapon: superior intelligence and complex communication. In these Antarctic waters, they have elevated the art of hunting to an entirely new level. Today's target is a 400-kilogram Weddell seal. It rests safely on a solid ice floe, a meter above the water. Ordinarily, this is an impenetrable fortress. But for a hungry orca clan, it is merely a puzzle waiting to be solved. Witness a tactical masterpiece, wave washing. The pod backs away, aligning like a military formation. Synchronized and precise, they charge toward the target, beating their tails. They are not attacking the prey, They are attacking the ice itself. A direct hit. A massive wave sweeps over, breaking the ice and washing the seal into the sea. The battle is effectively over the moment it hits the water. The orcas blow walls of bubbles to disorient their prey. No escape. Destiny is sealed. After the hunt, the pod shares the prize. This is more than survival. It is culture passed down through generations. A fusion of intellect and teamwork makes these deadly waters their playground. But as night falls, the battle for survival shifts to the other end of the planet. The Arctic and its eternal wastelands. Leaving Antarctica, heading north to the wilderness of Siberia, we encounter another master of the cold, the Arctic fox. When winter knocks on the door, their fur doubles in thickness, shifting from a grayish-brown to a pristine snow-white. This new attire is both an optimal thermal shield and a perfect camouflage cloak. However, this exquisite camouflage coat cannot satisfy a ravenous belly. In Siberia, winter means utter depletion. Buried beneath more than a meter of snow, prey becomes invisible. Every missed jump is a wasteful drain on precious energy. To buy its survival, the fox must endure long days of lonely, exhausting wandering, gambling its life on the faintest vibrations echoing beneath the frozen crust. Yet, the ultimate secret that prevents the Arctic fox's feet from suffering necrosis lies deep within their circulatory system, the countercurrent heat exchange mechanism. Warm blood flowing down from the heart warms the freezing blood returning from the paws. Consequently, their feet are maintained just above freezing. The Arctic fox's extraordinary paws help it defeat the cold, but they are powerless against hunger. To survive, this tiny creature has chosen one of nature's maddest tactics. Instead of hunting for itself, it gambles its life to scavenge from the slaughters of the frozen realm's ruler. That titan is the polar bear, the world's largest terrestrial carnivore. This half-ton mass of muscle is wrapped in a 10-centimeter layer of fat and a hollow fur coat, providing perfect insulation, making them virtually invisible, even under infrared lenses. Meanwhile, the true ruler of the Arctic, the polar bear, carries out hunts of extreme patience. On the flat ice fields, stealth is vital for survival. Despite their massive bodies, they move with incredible silence, using every small ice ridge to stay hidden. Every hunt is a contest of patience, where the bear must wait for the perfect moment to deliver a decisive strike against hyper-vigilant prey. But the harsh reality is that effort does not always yield results. A single mistake, or a shift in the wind, can cause the prey to vanish into the deep water. Low success rates make every meal incredibly precious. Failure means energy is spent without reward, pushing these giant predators into precarious situations during the long winter months as food sources grow increasingly scarce. In the frozen desert, a single polar bear meal saves more than one life. It is the catalyst for another survival chain. Look at this uninvited guest, the Arctic fox. In winter, when prey is scarce, the fox employs a daring survival strategy, becoming the bear's shadow. Trailing the planet's most dangerous predator for miles is a deadly game. A single angry turn from the bear could cost the fox its life. But the reward is worth it. High-energy leftover fat that preserves its body heat. Here, the wise survive in the shadow of giants. And you know what? The greatest motivation lies here. These two tiny lives depend entirely on their mother's milk. The mother bear's struggle is not just for her own survival, but for the very future of the Arctic. In the skies, another phantom is on the prowl. The snowy owl. Specialized wing feathers allow it to fly in absolute, terrifying silence. The prey has no idea death is descending from above until it is too late. A lightning strike, brutally precise. Patience and extraordinary senses have guided these phantoms through the frozen night. But this land is shifting. The winters are shortening, and a new challenge, greater than all the Arctic storms combined, is about to strike. Nature did not bestow heating technologies or artificial garments upon these creatures. Instead, it carved into their bodies the most flawless biological designs, turning deadly cold into a mere backdrop for life to flourish. As the sun vanishes completely, the long polar night consumes the Arctic. Every food source seems depleted. To survive this period of total darkness, smaller creatures must become literal ghosts, invisible, silent, and armed with superhuman senses. The decisive moment. The fox leaps high, arching through the air and diving headfirst into the snow like an arrow. A dangerous gamble. If the crust is too hard, it risks a broken neck. But today, intuition wins. A tiny meal that buys it one more day of life. From the frozen poles, we plunge straight into the planet's actual ovens. The Sahara Desert, where surface sand temperatures can easily breach 70 degrees Celsius. Here, water is no longer a mere resource. It is the deity that decides life and death in every fleeting second. "70 degrees Celsius, a temperature that turns the sand surface into a giant kiln. In the heart of the Sahara, the air is so bone dry that it is ready to leach life from any creature that dares to face it. This is not merely a geographic region. It is a deadly arena where the heat acts as an untiring executioner. Every grain of sand, every rising heat wave carries the breath of destruction, challenging the final limits of biological endurance. Camels have long been dubbed the captains of the sand seas. Their tolerance for dehydration is legendary, but their method of rehydration is what mystifies science. Upon reaching water after weeks of depletion, an adult camel can drink over 100 liters in a mere 10 minutes. Yet, to earn those 10 miraculous minutes of rehydration, they must endure days of wrestling on the brink of death. Under the scorching heat, the camel's body must wring out its very last drops of stored water. Its proud, fat-filled hump deflates and sags to one side. Its blood thickens, and internal organs stand on the verge of total collapse under the desert grim torture. The secret to the camel's survival lies here. During dehydration, they only lose water from tissues and muscles, while blood volume remains stable to keep the heart pumping. Their bodies can endure up to a 30% loss of water weight, a fatal threshold that would trigger immediate cardiovascular collapse in any other mammal. To avoid wasting a single drop of water on sweating, camels possess a unique ability. They allow their body temperature to fluctuate from 34 to over 41 degrees Celsius. Instead of cooling themselves through evaporation like humans, they turn their bodies into a thermal reservoir, absorbing daytime heat and only releasing it into the air when the cold night falls. If any other animal absorbed such a colossal volume of water in so short a time, their blood cells would burst due to osmotic pressure. However, camel erythrocytes possess a unique oval structure with an extraordinarily elastic cell membrane, allowing water to be stored directly within the circulatory system. But the camel is not the only one with a clever strategy against the heat. Meet the fennec fox, the world's smallest canid. Its ultimate weapon for surviving the Sahara's scorching summer days sits right on top of its head. A pair of massive ears reaching up to 15 centimeters in length. These ears function like two natural radiators. Hot blood from the heart flows through a dense network of vessels in the thin ear flaps, cooled by the desert breeze before returning to the body. Not only that, these two satellites are so acute they can detect the faint footsteps of a beetle moving deep beneath the sand. Yet camels, after all, still rely on external water sources. What then of this tiny creature? The desert kangaroo rat. Its entire life, from birth to its final breath, can be spent without drinking a single drop of water in the most literal sense. The secret of this ingenious rodent lies in a miniature chemical plant within its body. They extract water from the metabolism of carbohydrates found in dry seeds. As their body breaks down the chemical bonds of food, they synthesize intracellular water molecules, paired with a sovereign renal system that conserves water to the absolute maximum. A life without drinking water is no leisurely privilege. To retain its precious intracellular water, this tiny creature is imprisoned in the deep darkness of the underground all day, only venturing out to forage at night. Every step outside in search of dry seeds is a deadly gamble, surrounded by bloodthirsty predators waiting to devour its succulent, moisture-rich body. Even the kangaroo rat's consumption of dry seeds is a calculated art. They do not eat the seeds directly on the parched surface. Instead, they hoard them in damp underground tunnels. Here, the dry seeds act like sponges, reabsorbing moisture from the subterranean air. When the rat eats them, it is indirectly drinking water recycled from its very own burrow. The desert is a grim game of opposing extremes. Days that scorch the soul, nights that freeze the marrow. Yet, through unexpected evolutionary detours, life always discovers the narrowest loopholes to thrive and multiply. Leaving the burning furnaces behind, we turn our gaze toward the roof of the world. Here, life faces more than just bone-chilling cold. It must battle an invisible but far more ruthless enemy: the scarcity of oxygen. At 26,000 feet, the air is so thin that even helicopters struggle to operate. Yet, the bar-headed goose performs this extraordinary migration annually. The secret lies in their blood. Their hemoglobin has an extremely high affinity for oxygen, allowing them to snatch every rare molecule from a deadly atmosphere. Below the cliffs dwells the ghost of the mountains, the snow leopard. To survive where oxygen is half that of sea level, they possess massive chest cavities and enlarged nasal passages to warm the freezing air before it reaches their lungs. Their blood contains twice the normal amount of red blood cells, turning their bodies into hyper-efficient power plants. Snow leopards don't just live here, they rule here with gravity-defying leaps. For humans, this is the death zone. Without oxygen tanks, our brains would shut down in minutes. But for these masters, the boundary of death is a sanctuary of absolute freedom. From the breathless heights where atmospheric pressure is at its lowest, we now reverse our journey, plunging down to where pressure will crush everything into dust. We prepare to sink deep into a realm where sunlight has never existed for billions of years. The Mariana Trench, the deepest chasm on the Earth's crust, a world of eternal darkness, bone-chilling cold, and devastating water pressure. This pressure is not just a physical figure, it is an invisible executioner ready to suffocate any alien life. Any creature that accidentally drifts into this trench without biological adaptation will endure the most horrific seconds: lungs collapsing, organs shattering under thousands of tons of compression, turning into lifeless debris, sinking into the freezing mud. At a depth of 11,000 meters, water pressure reaches 1,000 atmospheres. Imagine the equivalent of supporting the entire weight of 50 jumbo jets stacked on your head. Here, any conventional bone structure or air-filled cavity would be instantly crushed. Yet at that very edge of the world, a monstrous hunter stalks its prey with absolute composure, the deep-sea anglerfish. The glowing fishing rod hovering above its head is no mere decoration. It is a deadly trap illuminated by millions of symbiotic, bioluminescent bacteria. In an environment where weeks or months may pass before a creature accidentally drifts by, a predatory opportunity cannot be squandered. The backward curving tooth structure ensures that once prey makes contact, there is no escape route. Those ruthless teeth were born from the chronic starvation of the abyss. Here, a meal is no daily routine, but a rare salvation. The anglerfish must endure long, grueling months, wasting away in the dark, surviving the hunger that tears at its body, conserving energy just to wait for a single lucky strike to preserve its fading life. But its predatory mechanism is not the craziest aspect of this fish. Consider how they perpetuate their lineage. The most ruthless love story on the planet. The male anglerfish is born microscopic. Its sole objective in life is to find a female in the vast ocean. Upon discovery, it bites fiercely into her abdomen. Following that fateful bite, a bizarre phenomenon unfolds. The blood vessels of both individuals fuse into one. Over time, the male loses its eyes, fins, and internal organs, degrading into a lifelong parasitic tissue mass, performing only one task: supplying sperm whenever the female requires egg fertilization. In another corner of the abyss, we encounter the blobfish, a creature once voted by internet users as the ugliest animal on the planet. Yet, this is an unfair human judgment based strictly through the lens of the terrestrial world. Under thousands of tons of pressure, their bodies are entirely devoid of hard bones, composed mainly of a gelatinous tissue mass lighter than water. In the deep sea, the pressure maintains their firm shape. Only when brought to the surface does the sudden decompression collapse this gelatinous architecture. They were never meant for the surface world. The ugliness that humans mock is actually the painful scar of a destructive cellular collapse. Leaving its deep-sea home, its body expands uncontrollably, its gelatinous tissues collapsing in absolute deformation. It is the heaviest price paid by an evolutionary master, the very architecture that protects it in the deepest abyss becomes the curse that turns it into a monster upon reaching the sunlight. But darkness and pressure are not the whole story. At the cracks of the Earth's crust, where glowing magma meets seawater, hellish hydrothermal vents exist. The water here reaches 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. But darkness and pressure are not the whole story. At the cracks of the Earth's crust, where glowing magma meets seawater, hellish hydrothermal vents exist. The water here reaches 400 degrees Celsius, hot enough to melt lead. Amidst the toxic plumes of sulfur, we find the planet's strangest creatures, giant tube worms. They have no mouths, no stomachs, and no digestive systems. They survive through a bizarre symbiotic pact with bacteria. Look at the Yeti crab. It uses its hairy claws to farm bacteria, turning its body into a mobile ranch. Where humans see poison, they see an abundant source of life. The true master of this realm is the Pompeii worm. Its tail sits in 176-degree water, while its head rests in the freezing cold. It is the most heat-tolerant complex animal on Earth, enduring a temperature gradient that would kill any other organism. These vents are proof that life doesn't need a paradise to begin. It only needs the smallest energy loophole to write its epic saga of persistent existence. These vents are proof that life doesn't need a paradise to begin. It only needs the smallest energy loophole to write its epic saga of persistent existence. We often view water as the cradle of all life on Earth. Yet, in certain unique locations, water manifests as the most devastating destructive poison. Welcome to the lakes of death. The alkalinity here can peak to maximum thresholds, equivalent to pure ammonia, capable of corroding human flesh within seconds. Yet right in the toxic heart of nature, an icon of elegance and beauty chooses this place as its exclusive sanctuary, the flamingo. Why does a bird of such fragile appearance remain uncorroded by this highly concentrated alkaline water? The secret lies in legs, flawlessly armored by nature. An exceptionally thick keratin layer combined with a specialized overlapping scale structure creates a barrier that completely blocks the infiltration of corrosive alkaline salts. Those legs allow them to wade freely through the deadly liquid without sustaining any injury. Not limited to their legs, the flamingo's beak possesses a system of microscopic lamellae that act as a sophisticated filter, exiling salt crystals to retain endemic algae. More astonishingly, the flamingo's biological framework allows them to drink water near boiling point from adjacent geysers without scalding. Yet, this exclusive paradise is also a treacherous trap. A single minor scratch on the skin allows the alkaline water to carve deep, necrotic ulcers. For young chicks lacking developed keratin armor, salt crystals bind onto their legs, forming heavy stone shackles that drown them in the flesh-corroding water. Survival here is a stark race against the literal petrification of toxic salt. Departing the alkaline lakes, we venture deep into hydrothermal vents, saturated with sulfur and intense acids. Here, in environments where science once believed no cellular architecture could survive, we find the planet's most ancient residents, extremophiles. Here, the conventional biological laws of the terrestrial world are completely cast aside. No sunlight, no photosynthesis. These extremophils operate an entirely different energy system known as chemosynthesis, exploiting energy from chemical reactions to manufacture life. To modern medicine and the entirety of human understanding, the threshold between life and death is irreversible. When blood ceases to flow, when the heart rate plummets to zero, and cerebral electrical impulses go dark, that is when the journey of a life officially closes. Death is a one-way destination. Yet in the frozen expanse of Alaska, that paramount law of life and death is ruthlessly broken by a tiny organism, the Alaskan wood frog. Right now, through the bitter winter months, this frog does not breathe. Its lungs are completely stationary. Its heart has entirely stopped beating. Biologically, it is dead. As winter sets in, over 70% of the water inside this frog's body freezes completely. Normally, when water freezes, sharp ice crystals form, piercing cell membranes and destroying the entire muscular architecture from within. Yet, the Alaskan wood frog wields a biochemical secret to bypass this doom. Before the freezing process occurs, the wood frog's liver receives environmental cues and initiates maximum operation. It releases a colossal volume of glucose directly into the circulatory system, flooding the cells. This concentrated sugar acts as a natural antifreeze, preventing cell destruction under the pressure of the ice. It is a breathless biochemical race at the cellular level. Its liver must wring out its last reserves in a few short hours before the body fully solidifies into stone. If the glucose cascade fails to envelop the cells in time, they will detonate like miniature bombs under the ice crystal's pressure. This frog does not merely sleep. Its body actively poisons itself with sugar to seal its soul away from the Grim Reaper. As the first spring rays melt the ice, a true medical miracle transpires. The frog's body thaws from the inside out. The heart, dormant for months, suddenly strikes its first beat. Within mere hours, a creature that just emerged from clinical death resumes its normal life. If you believe the freezing capability of the wood frog is the absolute boundary of life, then meet the undisputed king of immortality on this planet, the tardigrade. Measuring less than a millimeter, they possess a survival capacity that forces all other creatures to bow in submission. When confronting severe dehydration or temperature extremes, the tardigrade enters an ultimate state of suspended animation called cryptobiosis. They completely cease all metabolic activity. In this state, they endure cold down to minus 272 degrees Celsius, boiling heat of 150 degrees, and even survive in the vacuum of outer space. A single drop of water, whether after 10 years or a century of silence, revives this dry seed within minutes. Nature has proven a shattering truth. Death, at times, is not the termination of a life, but merely an ultimate defensive mechanism waiting for a better tomorrow. We had journeyed together through the most hospitable terrains on Earth, witnessing biological superpowers that seemed to belong strictly in science fiction. Yet, once the initial astonishment clears, let us pause for a moment to gaze deep into the essence. Where did all this wonder originate? Evolution never operates by random magic. It functions through three paramount keys: morphological alteration, adaptive behavioral adjustment, and profound biochemical mutation within the cells. Yet, the natural world obeys an immutable law, the law of trade-offs. No evolutionary gift is entirely free. Look back at the tardigrade, the organism that can survive in outer space. What is the price of that immortality? It is a microscopic dimension that leaves them permanently at the bottom of the food chain. They can withstand cosmic radiation, but remain entirely helpless and devoid of active defense against macro predators. The greatest trade-off is absolute environmental dependency. When an organism evolves too perfectly to survive in extreme environments, its body becomes a biological prison. They cannot exist anywhere else on Earth. Natural selection is both the savior that enables their survival and their ultimate jailer. Over millions of years, nature established ruthless yet temporally stable filters. Animals had sufficient time to adapt, to accumulate extraordinary genetic mutations. Now, however, everything is shifting at an incredibly accelerated pace. The rules of survival have been violently altered by human hands. When the most resilient organisms on the planet begin to fall, it ceases to be a story exclusive to the animal kingdom. It stands as the most unyielding warning directed at ourselves. No creature, humans included, can survive if we break the balance of nature.